MBR, nothing but rants. Show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Never rant. Never rants. Never rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rant. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going dumb with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger bands. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Never rant. Never rant. Never rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, it's the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold them up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back that back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care, come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Never rant. Never rant. Never rant.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous. See, I about did this the other day, and we did do this the other day. The other day, we accidentally did an entire 90-minute show to an hour-long show with the MacBook's audio getting picked up instead of the microphones. Welcome into the Film Guy Network. We are live from New Orleans. Man, yesterday and all week we've been walking around thinking just how beautiful this place is, how well kept it is for such an old and historic town. How the vibes, and just I felt safe the entire time I was here. I didn't feel that way in 2019. And then some asshole decides he's gonna drive down Bourbon Street at 70 miles an hour last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I don't even know how to open the show other than to say, F that guy, big middle fingers up to that guy. Thoughts and prayers to everyone that was affected by this and will be affected by this. I think the one thing, Kirby, obviously everyone does the thoughts and prayers for those who passed, and we obviously have heavy hearts for those and those affected and those in the hospital, but the general post-traumatic stress that you probably have, if you were anywhere involved with that or saw anything with that, thoughts and prayers to those people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, it's heavy, and there's really no great way to talk about it. And obviously, there's still things that are going to come out about it, but all you can do right now is just think about the people involved and wish them well and send prayers.
So we want to start. We wanted to start the show with thoughts and prayers to that situation. Let you know that obviously us being here, we're fortunate enough to be okay. We were asleep last night at 3 o'clock in the morning because we're not cool. I'm not going to be up at 3 very often. Are you?
No.
Partying? So we were in bed, and I received dozens and dozens of phone calls this morning. If you called me this morning, I appreciate you. I'm okay. Sorry I didn't get you back. We're all good. All right. There were some football games yesterday, Kirby. Let's start with the one that didn't matter, but Twitter talked about perhaps the most. Alabama loses to Michigan yesterday. A 7-5 Michigan team that everybody gave hell to Ohio State for losing to. And the Alabama team that His fan base spent a month on Twitter telling us deserved to be in the college football playoff. Takes an L. And by the way, before you do the Brooks is an SEC homer thing, my team that I said deserved to be in the college football playoff was South Carolina, and they laid a damn egg too. So to hell with all of you. The Big Ten rules. The SEC sucks. Brooks is an idiot. On to you.
Yeah, I mean, we missed the mark on the Alabama game for sure. Like we both talked about, this was going to be Alabama just absolutely thrashing Michigan, and they just came out flat offensively. And I mean, like the reality was that Alabama's defense played a great game. Michigan couldn't move the ball on offense, but the turnover spotted them 16 points in the first quarter, and that was just enough to win the game for them. So
now, to Jalen Milroe's credit, I guess, or protection, I should say, there was about a 12-minute period of that football game where it looked like they were in a torrential downpour.
Yes, correct.
And majority of his turnovers did arrive at that point in time. But, man, this was like, normally you can excuse these things for opt-outs. It doesn't matter. Bowl games don't matter. But their whole football team was playing, dude.
Yeah.
They didn't have like starters missing or the starting quarterback out,
yeah,
or
not only
the
that,
best weapon gone, or
Michigan was missing way more people.
Way more players. Their best. They were playing with their sophomore and freshman unit from Michigan basically on defense. All the juniors and seniors, or all the good ones, have basically declared for the NFL draft. That was crazy to see yesterday, man.
Yeah, it's an inexcusable loss. By no means is there any way you can kind of go a roundabout way and say, oh, they came in unmotivated or they had a lot of opt-outs. Like your starting quarterback was there. Now obviously they didn't have Justice Haynes. They had a couple of key guys missing, but at this point in the bowl season, everyone's going to have that. Michigan had way more missing, so this is an inexcusable loss, and it's just another embarrassment for Alabama this season. Yeah. I mean, it's the third one you've had now, but I think this one stings a little more because Alabama fans were so boisterous about how we should have been in the playoff. We should have been here. We would have done better than SMU. We'd have done better than Clemson. We'd have done better than Indiana. We should have been in.
Vandy, Oklahoma, 7-5 Michigan.
Yep.
Those three losses, man, in year one. I mean, granted, we cover a football team whose head coach lost to Georgia, or whose current head coach, who has 2 national titles, lost to Georgia Tech, Missouri, Vanderbilt.
They beat Missouri.
They beat Missouri late with Eastern, right?
Barely beat Nick by 2 points.
So, like, those football games year one, it got ugly for Kirby too. So there is some context needed to be added here, but some of those losses were just like, man, whoa, that can't happen at the University of Alabama.
No, it cannot.
The question I would have for an Alabama fan is like, is this the best in terms of talent, top to bottom? It's obviously not the most cohesive roster for what he wants to do stylistically, because those aren't his football players. But from a player standpoint, is that the most talented roster Kalen DeBoer will ever coach at Alabama?
That's a really good question.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
hey guys, he just recruited in the top 3. Okay, he did what he was supposed to do, especially nationally in that class that he just signed. So he is recruiting well, all right? But there's a difference between recruiting well when you're the guy who's replacing Saban and recruiting well when you're the guy who's replacing Saban that just went 9-4.
Yeah.
You follow me?
And I mean, maybe he doesn't need to have the most talented team. We've seen him do what he did with Washington. Obviously, his record stands for itself. He's been beating teams with inferior talent all the way through. He's had cohesive teams, and I think that's always helped him. This clearly was not a very cohesive Alabama team. It clearly was not a very cohesive roster under him. You could blame that on Kalen DeBoer. You could blame that on the fact that it's year one. You could blame that on there's been so much roster overturn. But it boils down to what happened this year for Alabama cannot happen, cannot continue to happen, or Kalen DeBoer will be in hot water. But I also don't think it's going to continue to happen. We talked about this, and I was kind of a big proponent of it. Playing an SEC schedule when you've never experienced anything like that before is very tough. Going in and the week in and week out grind. And it's not like you didn't show you can't beat the good teams. They beat Georgia. They had Georgia in a chokehold for the first half of that game. They beat some very, very good football teams throughout this year. I think it's just the week in and week out grind of the SEC clearly caught up to them, and Kalen DeBoer has to adjust if he wants to be successful at Alabama.
Whew. I think they got to start practicing a little harder.
Yeah.
When you have line of scrimmage play that looks like this, which I feel like Alabama's has all year, like LSU, they look like the best and most physical offensive line in the damn country. Georgia, they look like a damn good offensive line. And then it's just like doing this the whole time. And when I see player performance doing this, you know what their practice habits are probably looking like?
Very similar.
They probably look like this, right? Whereas most teams who, do one of these, their practice habits kind of look like that as well. So, but year one, we expected some growing pains. I don't think anybody in their right mind could have circled those 3 losses, though.
No, I mean, the growing pains we thought would be
the Tennessee loss on the road. I understand.
Yep.
We knew that was a good football team going into this year. So you tell me you beat Georgia and go 9-4, I'd be like, huh?
Yep. Yeah, and that's where we thought the growing pains would be. The teams
Yeah.
that are better than you beat, that you have to struggle to beat. Georgia's, the Tennessees, the other top 10 teams that they played this year. I mean, even at one point where like Missouri could get them just because of the start of the season. So I would not have expected the 500 Oklahoma, the 500 Vanderbilt, definitely not. So
give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you haven't already, head over to BetUS today. Use promo code YouTube150. You'll get 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first deposit. 125% deposit match up to $2,000 on your next 2 deposits. Again, using promo code YouTube150 over there on BetUS. Kirby, there was another football game yesterday. And look, I got sources all over the world nowadays, Kirby. I don't know if you've known that.
Oh, really?
I got sources upon sources
worldwide, huh?
all across this yonder. And one of those sources is now in Vegas. I got me a good source in Vegas. And he only hits me up nowadays when he's got 6-figure plays and beyond getting laid down on the track.
That must be nice.
So I got 3 phone calls this year of not just 100 racks getting put down, but $500,000. Okay, $500,000 getting slapped down on Vegas. Yesterday, I get a phone call about 4 o'clock local time. So I got about 2.5 hours before kick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, we got a $500,000 play getting put in Boise State money line. Boise State money line. This guy all year on 6-figure plays is 15-4. 15-4. He should be on a list somewhere.
15-5.
Okay,
now.
15-5 now. So I get this phone call. Hey, big play, $500,000 unit coming in State money line. So you know what I do, Kirby?
You drink the Kool-Aid.
I drank the Kool-Aid, but I pussify the Kool-Aid just a little bit. I don't go full-fledged. I take the points. I figure, hey, it's money. It's money. Minus
money.
12, give it to me, free money. Go over there on BetUS, huh? Boy, we did not cover that one last night, Curb. Despite James Franklin's all attempts to lose that football game, they managed to beat a very, very mismatched football team in Boise.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to kind of, I think, special teams matter. Like Boise State had a solid drive come out the gate, shanked the field goal, that put you down in the hole, and then Penn State kind of got rolling. And Boise State was able to stop the bleeding. They made it a 1-score game coming out of the half with that wide-open touchdown. And once again, they drive down the field. It's a 10-point game, have the opportunity to kick a field goal, make it a 1-score game, and you missed that as well. I think those were kind of the examples of how special teams matter in that game. Obviously, what happened, we said what would happen. Yeah. Ashton Jeanty didn't get stopped. He didn't get stonewalled. He got slowed down enough to where he was rendered kind of ineffective. Like,
honestly, if it weren't for the 3rd and 21, he is stonewalled.
Yeah.
If it's not for the 3rd and 21, which where he ran for a 23-yard scamper, I mean, he probably averages 3.1 yards a carry in that football game.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't – and that was kind of my worry all season of like, when you go up against consistent – I know what he did against Oregon. He looked really, really good. But the fact is that it's consistently playing group of 5 or power 5 teams. And look, Penn State's got a really good rushing defense. They're top 10 in the country. Like, it makes sense as to why he got stopped. But when he's kind of your driving factor for success all season and he's not effective, like, Boise State wasn't going to win that game.
So I'm trying to.
They threw the ball better than I thought they would, and that's kind of a plus for them. But it still wasn't enough in the end.
So Penn State had 2 running backs last night that averaged north of 7.5 yards per carry. Kirby, they had 2 separate running backs that averaged more than 7.5 yards per carry, and that's awesome. And I'm happy for Penn State that they can do that. But here's what blows my damn mind. I watched 3 times last night, 4th and 1, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, where James Franklin hears his offensive coordinator over the headsets in a game, by the way, all 3 situations, they're up 2 scores.
Yep.
In a football game, up 2 scores, short yardage situation, 2 backs averaging 7.5 yards per carry. I watched a head football coach hear his offensive coordinator essentially call a trick play on all 3 situations. And just let it ride. Just let it roll through his headsets and be like, yeah, great idea. Let's do that. Let's not just stick our foot on their throat and remove all opportunity and all hope that they might come back. Let's give them the ball back. Let's have to force our team to punt. I was like, what in the hell was going on? And I was happy, obviously, because I had money on Boise State. But like, I'm sitting here wondering, like, what up, Steve? I'm sitting here wondering, like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Why are they sitting here throwing the football on an obvious play action down pass?
Yeah,
obviously running down.
There were definitely some questionable decisions made at that
We're
point.
on live television, but I just want to say hello. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, there were definitely some questionable decisions made by James Franklin at that point, and ultimately it didn't cost you the game, thank God, for his sake. But at the end of the day, like, you can't do situations like that when you're playing the Ohio States, the Oregons, the Texases, the Georgias of the world. And I think that this was a really good win for him. It's been a really good two-win stretch for him.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had Penn State Dyers coming all throughout the playoff, and all they're going to choke it away at some point. Now, they were the superior team in both matchups, clearly, but good for James Franklin for being able to take care of business. But it was kind of this is why James Franklin always gets heat. And this is why Penn State almost never seems to get over the hump when it comes to playing really, really good.
Even when you win, you can't win type situation. That's the way I felt like my mind was about with James Franklin. Like, damn, dude.
I think he still won last night, but I think it's also like, I don't think he won anyone over. I think people say, good job for James Franklin. This is a good win for him. He was able to, do it now twice in a row, but we're also not buying in.
Yeah.
I don't think you walked away from this game thinking, maybe James Franklin is a great head coach.
I will say this. Drew Aller made some damn throws last night, Bubba. Some throws. Some off the back foot. Okay, Tyler Warren's back there in the back of the end zone. Watch this layered dart. Watch this layered dart come in right there.
And I think that was probably the biggest surprise for me in this game. I felt like Penn State was kind of wear them down and just beat Boise State up, out-talent them, and they certainly did. But Drew Aller was making some NFL level throws to where you were like, oh my God, like if this is the Drew Aller you're going to get throughout the rest of the playoff, that's a great sign if you're Penn State. I don't know if you're a national championship team just because there's so many other gaps around you. But if Drew Aller is going to give you that consistent quarterback play, I think that you're in really good position throughout the rest of this bracket.
All right, we got 3 big football games coming today. We did all the previews for all the other games yesterday. Okay, we saved today for just Notre Dame and Georgia, the football game that we will be going to and covering. Just quick thoughts on this noon kick between Texas and Arizona State. Quick thoughts on Ohio State and Oregon. Just maybe a final thought that you slept over last night.
Yeah, again, I thought about it really, really hard. This is kind of I did, honestly, though.
It just sounded sarcastic. That's why I laughed.
No, I was being genuine.
Okay, go ahead.
But no, I'm thinking about it, like, the only way Texas loses this game is if Cam Scatterbo absolutely goes nuclear.
Give him the boat.
The only way Cam Scatterbo goes nuclear is if Arizona State can get him the ball in creative ways. Outside screens, sweeps, things where you're going to have numbers consistently.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I don't see Texas being, not disciplined enough and not fast enough to react to whatever Arizona State's going to throw at them. I think it has the potential to be a very interesting game. I think you would say that last night's game was interesting, at least. There were some moments where, like, okay, we might have a game here. And I think
there was never a moment where I thought Boise State was going to win that football game.
No, there wasn't. But there was a moment where you're like, oh, this might be something.
There was a moment where I was like, I may cover. And every time I walked by dipshit in the casino, he was like, you're covering. Not you know how gambling works. You knew I was not when you told me that every time. You knew it wasn't going to happen.
I'm honored to think you think I have that much power over what's going on in a game in the Fiesta Bowl.
Well, you didn't have to have power over the game. I was watching the game knowing, all right, no. In the moment, every time Penn State got the ball, I was like, well, they're one dumb offensive coordinator call away from not scoring. But if they just run the ball, they're probably going to score on this possession every time they touched it.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I don't see an avenue where Arizona State is able to beat Texas in this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be Texas squashing them. I do think Texas wins this game by anywhere in the ballpark from 10 to 14 points.
Fair.
Maybe with a late touchdown to make it a 21 victory.
Yeah, they're like a 31-17 football team, 34-17 winner. They're never like a 42-10 winner. We said that yesterday on our show. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribing as well. A lot of folks asking about where the podcast this week. My apologies. When the guys leave us, when they're on vacation or if they're backpacking around Europe, being a granola bar guy wearing whatever, loser, Jonathan. When you leave, I don't want to replace you, okay? And I definitely don't want to do your job for you, because if I start doing your job for you,
You're expendable.
I mean, like, you know what I mean? So Jonathan's job, one of many, is to upload the podcast. And I feel like if
It's also typing the titles.
yeah. Yeah. And if I were to eliminate one of his responsibilities, we're just one step closer to eliminating Jonathan. And I think we can all agree we don't want to do that.
No, dude, I love
You
Jamie.
know, we definitely don't want to do that. So maybe we'll get the podcast up today. I don't know. But anyways, Ohio State, Oregon. I got Oregon, but I don't feel good about it.
I don't think I feel good about either prediction just because
Yeah.
it's such a toss-up game. It's two evenly ranked teams.
They definitely slotted the time slots on these football games perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Even
the
though
games get more interesting as it goes on.
I would have put Ohio State, Oregon at the night game, but you can't because of the Rose Bowl. You got to get the sunset, you know?
Yeah.
So makes sense.
But no, I don't know how you would make a prediction either way and feel confident about it just because it's two so evenly matched teams.
Quarterback and coaching. That's the only way I did it.
Correct. But then you also have to play the factor of, well, it is hard to beat a team twice. There is that aspect of it. There's the aspect of this is the revenge game for Ohio State. They seem to be getting hot. Oregon hasn't played in longer. They have a rest advantage. I mean, they could have a little knockoff or a little rust. Like, there's so many things. It was a 1-point game last time, and they were at Oregon. It could go the other way. So now it's a neutral site game. Like, there's a lot of factors that play into it. I do agree with you, though. Quarterback and coaching is the driving factor here. I think that Ryan Day is not a worse coach than Dan Lanning. I think that in situational times, time and time again, we'd seen Ryan Day kind of falter. Dan Lanning, on the other hand, this entire season has been based around, oh my God, Dan Lanning's decision making is the reason they won this game. So now I will say though, 2023, you had similar decision making from Dan Lanning, and he's losing games because of it. He's going for it on fourth down too much against Washington. That's why they lost the first time. Things like that. So I mean, Dan Lanning could give you a performance like that where it's like, they took too many risks and end up biting them. Like they did this in the first matchup. They went for two and they end up winning the game. But I mean, you're one play away from this being a wrong decision.
You know, we're certified ball knowers, but we also are certified ball players, or were.
Long time ago.
Is it actually hard to beat a team twice? And where did that come from? Because I'm looking it up. Is it actually harder to beat a team twice? And you know what I can't find,
it's not
Kirby?
in the SEC.
You know what I can't find? I can't find any statistics that prove this to be true. I can't. I have no statistics that say, like here it is. Key points about why beating a team twice is challenging. Increased familiarity.
Yeah.
That works both ways. Motivation factor. Okay. I think both teams are pretty damn motivated today. Yeah. And strategic adjustments. I think that's kind of in a vacuum anyways.
I think it's also like you look at the postseason rematches. Now, obviously, the SEC championship is its own entity. The Alabama-LSU game in 2011, the Alabama-Georgia game in 2021, like games like that where you have these two teams that meet up. The Alabama or the Auburn-Georgia game in 2017. Like these rematches can be very hard, especially on the national grand stage. Now, I will say that I don't necessarily know if that's a true thing, but it is kind of a mantra. And I do agree that there are some aspects of it that you feel like as a losing team, you have a mental advantage.
The biggest
and honestly, like let's play a what if game here. If Gunnar Stockton doesn't come in that second half and switch things up for Georgia drastically and give them kind of this new juice, I'm not sure they beat Texas. So I mean, it's interesting. There is kind of this idea that it might not be statistically. I don't think you can prove that it is harder, but there's some mental aspect to it.
I think for me, as when I was playing, knowing that I was going to see a familiar opponent was just a sense of comfort in general, because I know there's not this unknown factor. Now, it varies depending upon the individual matchup. Like if you're an offensive guard in this football game for Oregon that got your absolute ass whipped in that first matchup by Ohio State's defensive line, hard to beat a team twice. Yeah, but I ain't trying to go see that guy again. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. If you're an Ohio State wide receiver that had a great matchup round one against these guys, but you lost the football game, you're going into this one feeling confident despite the fact that you lost. So that's kind of where I reside. Now, the team collective effort, I think the biggest question everyone has is, can Ohio State come out with that level of edge and purpose that they had against Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming off that embarrassing loss to Michigan.
Yeah, no, they played with piss and vinegar against Tennessee, and I think that might also, like, the fact that you're coming into a game against a team that you lost by 1 point, and their stadium, like, kind of change the dynamic of your postseason. You don't lose that game, you probably have a first round bye. You're in the Big Ten championship, sort of thing. So I mean, Alabama or Ohio State could absolutely come out in this game again with that same FU attitude and give Oregon a lot of problems. But we'll see. I don't know. I would lean Oregon, just because Dan Lanning, coaching, Ryan Day in these big scenarios traditionally hasn't really worked out for him.
Do we know who's calling that one?
I think that's the Herb Street Fowler.
So who's calling the Georgia game?
McDonough McElroy. Remember we saw him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we saw them doing the media availability. All right, let's get into it. We got to get our final predictions in for this football game. We got several categories. And here's the deal. I'm going to tell you these categories because I want you to go ahead and fire off your thoughts in the chat. As it looks like, I can't see. So we got several thousand people here today. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching us on Twitter, will you do me a quick favor? If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, please feel free to do so. We are inching ever so closely to 50,000 subscribers. I'd like to do that before the conclusion of the college football season. I think that'd be pretty damn cool if we can do that. So we got about, 19 days to get that sucker done. So let's get after it. All right, here are the categories. We're going to go offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, most important matchup. That works both ways. Okay, biggest worry for both teams, biggest advantage for both teams, and of course, our prediction and final score prediction. Kirby, we'll start with you. Who is your vote for offensive player of the game in this football game?
I'm going to go Trevor Etienne. I think everyone wants to talk about how Gunnar Stockton, how he does is going to be the what Georgia offense does. Gunnar Stockton is going to open up this run game, especially in the read option zone and the zone keeps, because he has the threat to pull it. You're going to have to hold that backside end now, and they can't crash down and make effects on that. I think the run lanes are going to be much more wide open for Trevor Etienne in this game, and I think he could absolutely have a massive game for them. He's also going to be Gunnar's best friend out of the backfield. Checkdowns are probably going to be taken more. They're going to be doing things to give him easy, quick hit passes, stuff like that.
Got a man-to-man defense from Notre Dame, right?
Yes, you do.
Play a lot of single high safety. Roll aggressive safeties into the box.
Yeah, they keep it a heavy box.
They play instinctual. They play aggressive. They play downhill.
Yep.
Big day for play action. Big day for the tights. Give me Benjamin Jurasic. How about that? Benjamin Jurasic. Talking about a deep pull right now.
That's not the tight end I thought.
Deep ass pull right now. Benjamin Jurasic. I'm thinking 30-yard big field flipper play action right down the seam. Benjamin Jurasic.
Yeah, I thought you'd go lucky with that aspect just because of what he did with Texas and that combination.
It's actually Delp in the Texas game. It was lucky early on in the year. I don't know what. I know what happened. It was Jurasic's development.
Yep.
Jurasic's development and comfortability inside the offense, they started making him more vertical passing threat. Because early on in the year, we saw it. We're like, okay, very clearly, all their tight end screens, all their swing stuff, everything, all their yards after the catch stuff was going to Lawson. We've seen some of that role start to develop for Jurasic. So give me a big tight end game entirely. I like Jurasic to be the guy.
I like that one. That's an interesting pull. If that hits, that'll be a very, very good take for you.
Defensive player of the game, who do you got?
Christian Miller. I think him being banged up against Texas, not being available was really big. It kind of had an effect on you. I think him being available for this game is going to be.
Remind me to tell you a medical fun fact after this about the University of Georgia.
All right.
Can't tell it on air.
That's fair.
But you will respect these football players at the University of Georgia a whole hell of a lot more, because this program doesn't do something that every other program is willing to do. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I think I know what you're alluding to there.
They don't do it.
But, no, I think Christian Miller is going to be a major factor in this game. Not statistically. He's not going to be, have a 5-sack game or make 7 tackles for loss. Like, it's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but it's going to show up on the tape. He's going to wreck. I think he has the potential to wreck this game.
I think Daniel Harris is good enough to eliminate an entire side of the field in this football game.
I think that too, but it's interesting because it seems like opposing offenses have gone at him.
Yeah, it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake.
Like Texas was really trying to get him.
I know, but I don't find Daniel panicking when the ball's in the air.
No.
Daniel will occasionally, but Daniel's not. He's not going to panic. So I do think, and we'll get into that in biggest mismatch. I do think the these football teams have a favorable matchup. Trying to think. Big day for the safeties at Georgia as well. I think when you have an ability to, or going up against a football team that you know is going to run the football really well, your box safety is going to have to be able to tackle really well. So big day for tackling for Georgia as well.
Absolutely. Cannot miss tackle.
I got to take this phone call.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and just move down the list. Next one is most important matchup. I went Notre Dame DBs versus Georgia wide receivers. I think that the most important thing of this game is going to be how easy can you make it for Gunnar Stockton. That's why I think Trevor Etienne is going to be the player of this game here, because you can get him the ball quickly. He can be out of the backfield guy, but I think that you have to create separation if you're Georgia here. That's the most important matchup. If you can't create any separation, if you're constantly forcing Gunnar Stockton to throw in the tight windows, he's either A, going to hold on the ball too long, or B, he's going to make mistakes where they make turnover-worthy throws, and you cannot have that. I'm not saying that we have to have a in Smith 100-yard receiving yards, two touchdown type game. Dylan Bell doesn't have to look like he did against Tennessee in 2023, but it has to be enough to make things easy for Gunnar Stockton, because it is a guy who is A, making his first start, and B, might not have the same passing abilities that you would see from a Carson Beck. And I think back to 2017 Notre Dame. Look at what Terry Godwin was able to do for Jake Fromm, the McCole Harbins of the world. Like, Jake Fromm had a really, really good first start in his first year against Notre Dame because the wide receivers were able to make things easier. So I think the UJ wide receiver versus Notre Dame is maybe one of the more important matchups of this game. Was that an important call, or was that
That was a very important phone call.
Ooh.
Is
it a good phone call or bad?
No. I mean, it's just an up-in-the-air phone call.
Huh.
It has nothing to do with the University of Georgia, just maybe some events on their calendar.
Interesting.
I
was talking about most important. I was at most important matchup.
Okay. The most important matchup in this football game. Okay. Anthony Knapp versus Michael Williams. Freshman left tackle, and Jalen Walker for that matter. Freshman left tackle from Notre Dame. Now, he's extremely athletic, Kirby. He's got really quick feet. He's light. We found that. We know that about him. 6'4", 290 pounds. Okay. Super athletic, plays a good technique. But 6'4", 290-pound freshman.
It's a big boy.
It's a big boy, but he ain't as big, okay, as some of these guys that Michael Williams has been bull rushing and long arm sticking. So I think that matchup between Michael and a freshman left tackle, that's a matchup Georgia has to win. Now, granted, this kid's been playing lights out. He's been playing really, really good football. So it's not going to be some like, this ain't mincemeat standing out there. This is a good football player that they're going to have to go out and hunt.
Yeah, I mean, like you always hunt the youth just because youth and experience clearly rears its ugly head consistently in football games, especially at the college level. And thank God you have a guy like Michael Williams, who is as experienced as he is probably a first-round pick that can kind of hopefully expose these in certain aspects. And like you said, you're not going to win consistently. You don't have to win consistently. It just has to be – oh, wow. It just has to be a
right?
You just have to consistently.
Yeah, like try taking that phone call and then coming back over here.
Wow.
And doing live television. I'm calling this television from now on, by the way.
That's fine. Because
the CW be out here broadcasting Clemson football game, 3,000 people to watch. So we're going to call this live television from now on. Biggest worry in this football game for both teams. What's your biggest worry?
I think the biggest worry that you have right now is Riley Leonard's legs. If you're Georgia, you've seen running quarterbacks all year, particularly, and I know that running quarterbacks are hard to defend. Just in general,
he's a real lunch pail runner, man.
He is, but
both of these guys, real lunch pail runners.
But the problem is, like, you look at a Haynes King, you look at what Jalen Milroe did, you look at all the other rushing quarterbacks that have had the ability to kind of give you problems this year. Jackson Dart. I mean, even Brock Vandergriff at some points now, I know that they only scored 12, but they were consistently keeping drives going in that game. Like, the reason why you only scored 13 points against Kentucky was because Brock Vandergriff in that offense was able to consistently stay on the field. They didn't score points, but they were on the field long enough to hinder your offense. So things like that, I think, should be alarming if you're Georgia, because you've seen it 3 or 4 times this year where a guy who has legs and has the ability to run could cause issues.
I haven't seen – maybe they do. Does Notre Dame do some death marching? Do they do some, hey, we're up a score in the fourth, Let's go on an 8-minute drive.
They do that, and they also have explosive run games, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The one where it sticks out to me, now take this with a grain.
I got a nuggie.
Take this
I got a nuggie for you.
Oh, take this with a grain of salt, but that Purdue game was a lot of death march,
Yeah.
just death marching. Now, it was earlier in the season. It was fresh off that NIU loss, and it's Purdue. I get it, but that was where I was like, oh, they don't mind running the ball down your throat the entire fourth quarter.
A little birdie tells me Jeremiah Love not 100%.
Ooh.
Both dealing with an injury and a potential illness.
Ooh. That's a big hitter.
Yep. So, their best offensive weapon, in my opinion. I mean, not even opinion. I think it's fact. Jeremiah Love is the most explosive portion of this offense for Notre Dame. The rest of it is about efficiency and execution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Love is the firework. So, should be an interesting one there.
Very.
What's our next category?
Biggest worry for Notre Dame.
Oh, did I even give you one there on that category?
I don't think you did.
All right, biggest worry for Georgia. The fact that Notre Dame can walk down at corner and just get in your face and say, well, you ain't going to beat me today. And here's the other thing that scares me. Like, most times, what do people tell you can't do? What type of defense can't you play against a quote-unquote mobile or dual threat quarterback?
Man, you
can't play man,
right?
Because guys start turning and running, and DBs start turning and running with their weapons, and now nobody's got eyes on the quarterback. Now he's escaping. Everybody's running downfield, right? Well, you can do that if you have a linebacker or a defensive end athletic enough to run Gunnar Stockton down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Gunnar is just as athletic as the linebackers that Notre Dame plays with. And I think the Notre Dame linebackers are just as athletic as Gunnar. So it puts you in a situation where if you're Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, I would not be fearful at all of playing man-to-man, bump and run against this football team. In fact, if I were this defensive coordinator, if I were Al Golden, knowing Al Golden and how he has played football over his years, I would have walked in that meeting room the day we found out we were playing Georgia, and I'd say, here's the deal, guys. They cannot beat us at wide receiver. They cannot beat us at tight end. We don't think they can. I'd be talking to my guys this way. They can't beat us at wide receiver. We're going to play man-to-man. We're going to spy that quarterback. We're going to get after these guys. And we're going to make them beat us because we are better than them.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go into that football game thinking that, and we would adjust if that were not the case, right? If we go out there and we start getting our eyes boxed in, we'd make some adjustments. But my adjustment would be making Georgia line up and beat me. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that aspect to it that would worry you as a Georgia fan because, let's be fair, your wide receiver core has not been good at being press man this year.
Yeah.
Very little separation has been created by way of the talent on the field. It's been schemes. It's been other things that open things up for you. So, yeah, man defense certainly scares you. Hopefully you hope that Gunnar Stockton's legs and the fact that he adds one more hat to the box that you have to account for causes some fear in that, and that they might wane off of it. But yeah, if Notre Dame is able to just walk down and consistently cover all night and force Gunnar Stockton to play in tight windows, you're in trouble. And that's why I said that the most important matchup is going to be Georgia versus Notre Dame wide receivers.
Yeah.
You're not going to throw the ball 30 times this game, but when you do throw the ball, they have to be A-plus throws, pretty much guaranteed catches.
Yeah. All right, next category.
The next category.
Biggest advantage?
Biggest advantage for both teams.
All right, biggest advantage for Notre Dame is experience at the quarterback position. And just general, like, seasonal momentum, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Notre Dame, since Northern Illinois, has just been on this kind of trajectory. And they've been playing really, really good, consistent football. And we're in a sport now where, like, if you're not peaking or reaching your peak in December and in January, well, you're just not going to win a national title. And all year long, as we've covered this Georgia football team, they've been very sporadic with regards to their performance. It's been very up and down. Their execution hasn't been consistent. So I think that's an advantage for Notre Dame, the fact that they have been really, really consistent football team. And people will tell me, but Brooksy, they have not played anybody. And I will say you are correct. But as I said last week, or yesterday, I mean, Georgia's had up and down performances against bad teams on their schedule this year.
All season. Like, there hasn't been one stretch of season where
Mississippi State, Auburn, and Georgia Tech, there were portions of those football games where Georgia did not look like a national title winner.
Not at all. I would say you'd be hard pressed to find one game where you could say for 4
Have they
quarters.
played one clean?
No.
They're due.
The best.
God dang, they're due. By the way, they think they're due. Everyone I talk to in that building thinks they fit in them.
The best argument you could make would have been the first half again, or just the Clemson game, where you were kind of feeling things out in the first half.
Second half of Clemson, they played clean, both sides.
Clean. And they didn't play sloppily the first half.
No.
It was very much a feeling out process. That's probably the cleanest game you've played. Guess what? That game is 13, 14 weeks old now. Like, you have to put in a consistent game. And I think, like you said, that is the advantage for Notre Dame. They consistently are in the right spots. They're consistently doing the right things. They're disciplined, and they've been the most consistent. I mean, they had that hiccup in week 2 against NIU, and we know we've talked about that. That is as bad of a loss as you can have. It's the worst loss out of any team in the playoff right now.
Yeah.
But they've beaten teams by 28
points. Took a dump at home, Kirby.
Yeah. Ugly. But they've beaten teams by a 28.8 average at this point now, like consistently since then. So they have been a very consistent football team. They had a really, really ugly loss at first, but they've been extremely consistent. They're in the right position. And I think that's an advantage for them because, like we've said, Georgia has not done that this season.
Yeah. So Notre Dame might have the experience advantage at the quarterback position, but there ain't a soul on that Notre Dame roster that's played in the playoff.
Mm-mm. You and me have the same exact notes here.
Same note.
Same note.
Been spending too much time together. Cycles are linking up.
Yeah.
Mental cycles.
Kind of gross.
Mental cycles. Thought cycles.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
But yeah, no, I think
they attract bears.
You'd be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed to find a team in this playoff that has been more battle tested, has more championship experience than the roster that Georgia has.
Yeah.
Like, they're one of the few teams. I think they're the only team. There's players on this team that played in national championship games.
Yeah.
Like, Washington's not there.
Michigan's not there. Alabama's not there.
Alabama's not there. TCU's not there. Georgia's the only team where they've had players that played in national championship games. And, oh, by the way, an 8 overtime game here.
Does that number say 3,700?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Holy shit.
It's pretty cool.
That's not bad. It's not bad for you, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review.
But no, back to it. You'd be hard-pressed to find a team that's more battle-tested, more experienced, and that you would trust more to win in these big game situations than Georgia. Yeah. And that's certainly an advantage because, like we've said, there is this stigma that Notre Dame has that they always fall flat in big games. When they finally play a quote-unquote real team, they get exposed. So Notre Dame has an uphill battle all the game throughout this.
I would imagine we have some Notre Dame fans in the chat today, and I want your help here because I don't watch TV copies. And this is something we got into a discussion about last night. Somebody asked me, you know, what do you think about Marcus Freeman's in-game decisions? He good with clock management, good with timeouts. I'm an all-22 guy. I don't watch a ton of TV copies when I go break down film, if you will. So what I don't see is your situational awareness in terms of time management, clock management. So I don't know that about him. And this is a football game that I believe I predicted to come down. Well, we're going to do score predictions in a minute, but I've already spoiler it with the SI.com article. I think it's going to be a 20-17 football game, which means the guy with the headsets on the sidelines, okay, on both sides, can 100% impact the outcome of this football game. This isn't a two-score battle where if your coach misses an opportunity to make a game changer, like Kirby did in that game against Texas, that fake punt on 4th and 4 on your own 35 is a huge moment in that football game and arguably won the football game for them. They end up going down on that possession and kicking a field goal, winning the game by 3 in overtime. So those types of moments, I don't know the answer about Marcus Freeman in that situation because, again, I don't watch a ton of TV copies. I know Notre Dame fans in the chat today do. So you tell me, do you feel comfortable about your football coach to know he's 100% going to squeeze everything out of his football team today in those situational moments? Because Kirby, over the last 5 years, watching Kirby Smart in these moments in these football games, now that Saban's gone, there ain't a better big game football coach in those moments than Kirby Smart. The last 3 must-have win football games, he's made the biggest decision. He's gone in there, called timeouts on a fake punt against Ohio State, right? You go on down the list. We just mentioned the most recent one in the SEC championship game. So I think that's a massive difference.
And it's not just that. It's not that he's made the right decisions. There hasn't been a time where you go, what the hell was Kirby Smart thinking?
Never.
Like, you had that in the 2018 SEC championship, and that is infamous for its own reason. That's 6 years removed now. Like, Kirby Smart has been consistently making the right decisions, even when people doubt him, the Stetson Bennett thing, like we can go on and on, like the Mike.
Even in-house roster decisions.
Exactly.
Good God.
So I mean, he gets questioned a lot, but looking back at it retroactively, it's hard to find a decision that he's made where you're like, why in the world did he do that? Like that lost us the game, or that drastically affected the game negatively for Georgia. So that's definitely an advantage that Georgia has right now.
I think this is a Notre Dame fan says, I think Freeman rarely does things that I think are dumb. I think he manages as good as any pretty average, I suppose. So there you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't kill you, but you ain't out here going, damn, that timeout Marcus called really won us the game.
Well, I think the thing that alarms you about the Marcus Freeman teams is that they always have a stink. Now, they've had their stink already, and they've seemed to be consistent about it. But, like, this isn't the first time. You lost to Marshall.
We talking about mid-major stinkers.
Yeah, bro. So that's where I think you look at it and go, oh, what's going on here? To be fair, though, he hasn't been in these situations where you've got to make a game time decision that can either win you or lose you the game, that you'll be ridiculed for if it ends up being wrong, and you'll be praised for if it's being right. I don't think he's been in that situation, really. So we'll see. If it comes to a head tonight, I still trust Kirby Smart, but we'll see.
Oh, shit, I thought that was Glenn Schumann. I'm like, what is he doing over here? Biggest advantage for Notre Dame.
Biggest advantage for Notre Dame is their discipline. They're consistently in the right spot.
I like that.
I think we talked about, like, they are not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to beat Notre Dame football. Now, you have the talent advantage to do so. I would say you have the coaching advantage to do so. But you are a team that has beaten itself all year. You probably aren't losing to Alabama if you don't beat yourself. You probably aren't losing to Ole Miss if you don't beat yourself.
Yeah.
So the reality is that, are you going to let Notre Dame beat you?
I need Mike Bobo to be in his man beater bag. Okay? I ain't going to let, if I'm offensive coordinator, I got so mad at Indiana watching that. You talk all that shit. You talk all that mess. And then you come out there and your game plan looks like a high school coordinator's game plan. Knowing for a fact, I don't make $5.5 million a year like Kirk Cignetti, I imagine, makes. I don't make $900,000 like the offensive coordinator for Indiana makes. I assume he makes. But I'm smart in football, and I know that Notre Dame in this football game is going to come out here and run 95% man coverage. And if for some ever-loving reason we do something that forces them to play zone, we better continue to do that, because we don't want them to keep playing man coverage because they're good at it. And I was blown away, Kirby, to watch a football coach. Did he win Coach of the Year?
He did.
To watch the Coach of the Year in college football, watch a defense play the same defense over and over again and do nothing to put it into conflict.
Not just that. Come out on College game day
and talk all that
2 hours
shit
before kickoff and say, kind of do your shtick of, oh, look at me, I'm him.
I thump top 25 teams.
I'm him. We beat the shit out of teams. Google me, all that, and to come out and play, to coach scared, like that was unacceptable. So, I don't think you want to see that in this game.
All good, brother.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Score predictions?
Yeah, I got Georgia 20-17. A 4-quarter football game. Dollar bills, man. Dollar bills. I don't think there is a moment in this football game where anybody feels comfortable. It's just they're too evenly matched, man. Now, look, if this were Gunner's 7th start, hell, if this were Gunner's 4th start, give me Georgia by 10. But since it's his first start, they're good on defense, guys. I know the Mills kid's out. But the defensive line, I know Georgia's going to be able to run the football. But eventually, if they can add enough hats to the box, they're going to make Gunner beat them today. They're going to make Mike Bobo beat them today. I think they will. But it ain't going to be easy, and it's not going to feel comfortable.
No, I mean, like, looking back at it, they've played 3 games before.
Yeah.
No team has reached 30 points. Every game has been within 7 points of victory. The largest margin of victory happened in 1980. Georgia won by a touchdown. So it's going to be a 4-quarter game. It's going to be probably a low-scoring game. You've got 2 offenses that like to run the football now. It looks that way. You've got 1 offense that's starting a first-time quarterback, making his first collegiate start. So there's going to be some feeling out processes early, and it's going to be a relatively quick game, I think. I think you're going to have, like, maybe 5 possessions in the first half. That's the type of game I think it's going to be. So
that's a shitty football game to shoot for photography.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Hey, man, it's still the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, it's still a Sugar Bowl, and I'll still be on the sideline.
First world problems. But I think that I think that at the end of the
My
day,
pictures aren't going to come out good.
I think at the end of the day, Georgia has been wildly inconsistent this year. There's no denying that. That's definitely a worry. And if it rears its head here, you're going to lose this game. But for as inconsistent as Georgia's been, for as bad as they played in certain points of the season, you just trust them in these big games, especially when it comes to playoff games. Like Georgia this will be Georgia's 7th playoff game right now. And they've always played buttoned up for the most part. Hasn't been easy. There's been points where it's like, oh, they might lose this game, Oklahoma or Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
But they always seem to play strongest towards the end, and I trust Georgia to do that in this game. I trust Kirby Smart to outcoach Marcus Freeman in that regard. I've got Georgia winning 23-17.
I've always had a theory about mentally, at least, and I'm uncomfortable here, and you can tell. I've always had a theory about terrorism, Kirby.
Yeah.
At least this is how I approach it. And I've never been this close to an event like this. So we're about to have to put words or money where my mouth is, or actions to my words. I've always felt like if you live your life out of fear after a terrorism event, not only did they take those lives, but they're impacting yours the way that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for fear, right? They want to make you scared to live your life and go do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let that happen. I think I'm gonna walk right outside today, and I'm gonna say a prayer and be thankful that I'm here. But I'm not gonna let some dickhead in a F-150,
an electric one at that.
I'm not gonna let that impact my thoughts of New Orleans. I'm not gonna let that impact my thoughts of these people. Hell, I don't even think I'm gonna let that impact my thoughts of the world. I do think this world is in a very tough place.
Mm-hmm.
I think this country's in a very tough place. But I'm gonna dust my shoulders off, wipe my hands, and get to work today. So
yeah.
I love you guys. I hope y'all are good. I hope you have a happy New Year. And for the sake of this business, I hope it's them dogs by 50.
Now who's gonna end the stream if you're on the left? He's doing a lap right now. I don't think you understand. We are in the media center here. It's the 3rd floor of the Sheraton Hotel. He's running around the entire concourse. Oh no, he's walking back now. He's dancing. Do you want to end? Oh, he's coming out. Hell yeah, dude. Brooks is on one right now. He's excited. Go dog.
Y'all have a good one.